your creation and what you've done. And we know the gravity of making decisions with taxpayer dollars, and as we look at that today, we just pray that we'll make wise decisions and be consider the needs of all of our people. So we thank you, and thank you for loving us in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We live? Yes. All right. Are there any public comments for our workshop? Anybody? Okay.
I would like to say, Philip, I think that it may be that may be
Okay.
you certainly probably just a reflection of everybody thinks it's
Okay, yeah, no, yeah, we don't normally have workshop meetings so, and they're usually at 5:30, but yeah, they're kind of,
Is there any problem with that? I'm getting brain.
No, in regards to we're just talking about in regards to some of the SPLOST
The SPLOST
advisory
topics?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we can always mention some of this at the council meeting as well, if y'all want to, if we see some that come up and we want to just talk about it again real quick.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There are no consent agenda items. We'll move down to new business to discuss the SPLOST manual draft. I'll hand that to you, Philip.
So every time the county proposes putting a SPLOST referendum up to the public, the communities and various municipalities that will be the recipient of any SPLOST funds needs to come up with a manual that just kind of goes through what the projected dollar amounts are going to be for the sales tax revenue, the increased revenue, and what we would spend that money on. So that's essentially what we formulated here. We had a good team of staff and our SPLOST advisory group. We thank them very much for being a part of it. It was a citizen group of various people from across the town, a good spread from different locations, different backgrounds, that were able to give us some input on projects that they thought were best for the SPLOST. I'll just kind of go through just a quick overview. Just I know council has seen, in the draft, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but just for anybody that's watching online, just a quick overview of the SPLOST manual, the components, and then some of the categories and projects that we're proposing, and then council can stop me at any time to just kind of discuss what they, any changes they want to make. I got some comments on some changes that have already been reflected here, so we might see those as we go. So this is the draft manual, just an overview. We just do an introduction of the SPLOST, what the tax distribution is going to be for each municipality, what we as a town are going to do, essentially what we're proposing to do with that money in terms of projects, and then we have our categories. So they're going to be leisure services, multi-use paths, transportation, town center, sewer, and stormwater. So this introduction just kind of shows what the SPLOST ballot, the referendum will look like, what surrounding community rates are for sales taxes. So most of our surrounding community are 7, to Atlanta being the highest, 9. The makeup of sales tax, so 4 cents of your sales tax always goes to the state. 1 cent is the just regular, what we call lost local option sales tax. 1 cent goes to East Blost, and then 1 cent goes to special local option, which is,
Ask for a point of clarification up here at the top. In November, the Fayette County Board of Commissioners will, and following. It was my understanding that the SPLOST vote would be in March.
you are correct. We need to make sure that gets adjusted if it's referencing November. Last year it was November, and I think originally it was supposed to be November. So we need to change it. Which page do you see that?
Go back,
3, I believe.
right
We
there.
changed that the other day.
Okay,
Did
yeah,
that
we
go
did.
through?
I
Yeah.
see.
No, it's okay. Your books may not have that change. I did make some of the ones that were noted,
Okay.
some of those changes, so.
And
we
what
have
I'm
it here.
looking at is the packet from the online.
Yes,
So,
correct.
that
So
needs
some of those changes have already been made, just
Okay.
in advance, just to make
Thank
sure
you.
I didn't miss them. We listed the actual distribution, so it would be 210 total million projected for all cities in the county. County getting the largest proportion. It's not entirely based upon population, but that is one of the main contributing factors, so we can kind of see how that distribution plays out between the county, Peachtree City, Fayetteville, and Tyrone and Brooks. So the town of Tyrone is projected to get $13,492,000. And we've really divided this up into the rough kind of categories of transportation, stormwater and sewer, downtown improvements, leisure services, which is basically library, recreation, things like that. And then public safety and administrative equipment, things like that. Transportation takes the largest portion of that, 4.5 million. That is between, we've bundled transportation. Transportation is between roads and multi-use paths. So when you're taking a look at some of those numbers, sometimes we do break it down a little further in the document between multi-use paths and roads, but they're all considered transportation. Transportation projects include townwide paving projects and intersection improvements, such as a roundabout or light or whatever works best at the red light here at the corner of Senoia, Palmetto, Tyrone. Multi-use paths, we sat down with the SPLOST Advisory Committee and we went through a list of multi-use path projects that we thought were best. This is really a summary kind of slide of all of that. The budget summary, which is the most detailed, is here. And I can kind of go through each one of these projects just to read them off. But multi-use paths include Sandy Creek High School multi-use path connection, Dogwood Trail and Senoia Road Railroad crossing, Laurelwood Road connector crossing that would connect the dirt portion and the paved portion of Laurelwood. That would capture all the residents that live off of Laurelwood and the subdivisions into the downtown area, pre-existing path system. Tullamore to Greencastle connector, Castlewood Road multi-use path improvements. So this is that's our oldest path in the town, and it's just getting time for some love. East Crestwood Road path. We've actually also included, and I think I need to put this in here as a note, a Far Road path improvements. This would just be probably a miscellaneous, upgrade or improvement, but I can put that in here. Downtown projects include signage for our buildings and our parks, so new monument signage. That also includes wayfinding signage, so some directional signage to downtown locations. We have a lot of them. Also helps give a little bit of sense of place, so the signage would look really beautiful. It would probably reflect the character of the town. Senoia Road streetscaping. This would include lighting, trees, beautification, traffic calming, on-street parking, multi-use trail expansion, widening, things like that. Commerce Drive would get the same kind of treatment. Underground utility work, so pulling a lot of what's overhead underground. crosswalk improvements, pedestrian improvements, curb and gutter, parking expansion, things of that nature. Parks and Recreation would include Shamrock Park improvements, landscaping, hardscaping, which is really, the construction of some walls, pavings, things like that. Multi-use stage and marketplace, we talked a lot about some kind of permanent pavilion, stage, something for Shamrock Park that would accommodate the venues and things that we have there. The library, outdoor space, so Patty's talked a lot about having a much nicer kind of outdoor space for the library between the recreation center and the library that overlooks the lake. So having something that we can, for her there. Red Wine Park, Handley Park, Fabian Brown Park, all getting, some kind of investment as well, because some of them are aging and stormwater include various dam improvements across the town and infrastructure. So these are pipes, culverts, you name it. We've got thousands of them. So a lot of, there's a little bit of deferred maintenance that we need to catch up on some of the stormwater infrastructure. Sewer is in the realm of capacity and infrastructure improvements. And then administrative costs between Public Works and the police department would be basically vehicles and equipment like radios. The next portion, just kind of after going through some of those, the next portion of the manual goes through and kind of visualizes these projects and gives a narrative description of each one. So we're still workshopping this, right? So we still have some of these maps that need to be updated, some of them that need to be improved. But each one of those projects that I mentioned, some of them may have been bundled, but I'm trying to visualize that for voters to just give them a better idea as to exactly what we're talking about when we talk about doing like a Fabian Brown Park improvement. Not a tremendous amount of investment that needs to go into Fabian Brown Park. It's a simple park. It's a leisurely park, but being able, it's actually a much larger park than people realize. It's over 5 acres, and I think people experience maybe a half acre of that. So just being able to better utilize the amenity that's already there. So a trail, just kind of improve the parking. It doesn't necessarily need to be a full, paved lot, but just a nice gravel lot, something for people to be able to just experience that park a little bit better. And so this just kind of helps visualize, the vision for that, something simple. Handley Park upgrades. This is an old image that will probably get amended because we and council have actually amended some of the approvals for what we want to see at Handley Park. But just kind of visualizing that for people. Also talking about the roughly 30 or 40 acres that we purchased adjacent to Handley Park and what it would take to basically make that a nature preserve. So that's another big improvement that was talked about for Handley Park. And so we would give some visuals of the nature preserve and what a relationship with the Southern Conservation Trust would look like. Dorothea Redwine Park, we're already doing some work on this, and this rendering probably needs some small modifications and revisions, but just visualizing what the overall master plan for Dorothea Redwine would look like and how the SPLOST would help us, move in that direction. We already have the pickleball courts, as y'all.
Philip, there is one thing that we had mentioned, just in talking quite a few years ago, that because that the walking path is hidden, it's right over in front of the pond, you can't really see anybody that's down there. We had talked about maybe making a different walking path up on the top of it.
Like here?
Yes.
Sure.
Just put that in your pocket and think about it later.
I think that's feasible.
Because, and then of course the other one could still be there for, for whoever wants to use it, and especially good for bicyclists and
Runners.
yeah. But it might be for safety reasons. I think it might be a good idea to have something like that.
Yeah, and I think I think also looking at thinning out the woods for visibility, lighting, that might also be good solutions to achieve.
And in that
Public wo-
particular, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Public Works did a lot of clearing down through there a few weeks ago, and it looks better already.
And that area that you're referring to about, making another pathway, that gets awful wet during the rainy seasons down through there. It still gets kind of moist because the water overruns that particular portion of that.
You're talking about on the top
Down by
part?
the pond or the
Oh, yeah.
retention pond. So your idea, I think, is good.
Scott, if you have any commentary as well as we're going through, feel free. Multi-use paths, so this was obviously a large one. We've included this overall list, a map of the town's multi-use trail and share the road street network, sidewalk network. And we kind of went into some detail of each one of those types of projects. So what does Jenkins Road School Complex connection look like? Where would that be rendered? We also have some images that we'll be putting in here. We actually have a Sandy Creek High School intern working on some of the renderings for this path. So that's exciting. Kayla's done a lot of great work on this rendering. But that'll be included once we finish that.
What will the connection, where will the connection be to get across Jenkins?
Yeah, so if you're looking at here, let me pull up a map. I think
You mean coming from the north to the south?
Either one. I mean,
so
from that new property to where our line shows, how will you get across?
yeah, the proposal is for the path to essentially make this line here tie into the pre-existing kind of path that goes to the parking lot into the field. So the parking lot itself would actually serve as the path for all intents and purposes. Connection to this property, the curb cut for this property is projected to be here based on their submitted development plan and site plan that they're proposing. The cart path itself would run along the back portion of that property. So my assumption is that a crossing would happen right here and would tie into basically the sidewalk.
And
Potentially
whose
into the-
responsibility is it to do that crossing?
So that crossing, we've put the requirement of the developer to build the path all the way along the back portion of their property.
Right.
The crossing would have to be probably a joint effort between the county and the town. Because it would be a town path, but Jenkins in that location is a county road. So we would probably work in tandem. Provided that this path is complete and this path is complete. The county already has a crosswalk here, but it's much further down. It connects the elementary and the middle school together.
You have the Town of Tyrone, you have Fayette County, and then you also have the school board.
Yeah.
Three sources. Great joint project, and may even open us up for some grant possibilities, being that everybody's combining it.
Gotcha.
We just learned about some great grant opportunities for physical infrastructure, some of those pedestrian hawk signals that they call. The town would qualify, I'm sure, in this location for basically having the physical infrastructure perhaps covered by GDOT.
Thank you.
So that was a big path connection that people have been looking for. And it would also, this path, in addition to connecting people to the school, which is the number one connection, it also connects everybody with the path system to the Legacy Theater and all of the shops at Carajokes. So this is really and truly it bridges a lot of different destinations for the town.
But with that, Carrot Oaks, how are we still proposing that they get across? Or are they going to have to go down and with the new connection that you're gonna be making there on Senoia Road, come through Publix? And then, how would they get from, let's say, how do they get from Publix or Southampton for that matter, to the east side of 74?
Right, so this right here is the new proposed path connection, right? That would lead to the school system from our pre-existing network, which is kind of in green here. Actually, this is part of the 2017 SPLOST, so it's not listed in this. But, so you can see there, that's the proposed connection to Publix. So for people to do, so if, let's just say you lived in Millbrook Village, or if you were coming from the school and you wanted to get to Publix, if you were a pedestrian, you could simply use the crosswalk. If you were on a golf cart, you would come down and you would cross under Senoia Road at the overpass, and you would shoot north, and you would come up that way. Yeah, it's a little bit of a reroute. I think grand total is probably close to a mile, as opposed to just crossing at 74. But GDOT, of course. That's what that kind of network
you
would
for
look
that.
like together. Yep. So the Dogwood Trail, Senoia Road, Railroad Crossing Extension, this is a project that, you know, has been asked for a lot, and it would connect Maple Shade and a lot of the subdivisions along Senoia Road and in Peachtree City to the pre-existing path network in Tyrone. And it's a really short path to make that connection happen. So it's economically, it's feasible, and it services a lot of residents for that connection. Of course, the biggest challenge is CSX and having a crossing approved by CSX there. Because this is a pre-existing intersection and a pre-existing crossing, we have a better chance of doing that. But negotiating this path was a high priority for residents, and it's something that residents are already doing. So making this safe for them is.
That
And,
proper,
okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You go this time.
You made a note down on the bottom of CSX denies the proposal that there would be alternative path options.
Yeah.
Now, based on what you had said a little earlier, one of the projects was the Tullamore to Greencastle. Can I assume that that is one of your alternative options?
Yes, so a Tullamore to Greencastle connection would do this. That's important because Greencastle serves as a share the road street. It's 25 miles or below, and there's already a pre-existing connection to Greencastle from Maple Shade. You have that connection, we would simply connect Greencastle Road to Tullamore. There is a pre-existing trail that comes through here to Bellway, so you can follow your way through. There's a sidewalk along Brooks Drive and throughout all of these subdivisions. One of our other main paths is along East Crestwood, in terms of a proposed path, along East Crestwood to cross here. This still does incorporate a railroad crossing, but it's a much lower traffic count street. That we would feel comfortable allowing carts to basically share the road for a brief period of time just to cross with traffic, and then they get back on their own dedicated path and cross onto the pre-existing trail along Senoia Road. So that is an alternate route. Of course, if you lived here on Windfair and you wanted to get down to Peachtree City, or, you know, conversely, if you lived at the edge of, you know, Maple Shade and you wanted to get down, you would have to come around to do that, but there would technically be a safe path.
Windfair, how do they get into Tullamore? Well, they'd have to go all the way back to East Crestwood and then work their way back through?
Yeah, they would have to come down to East Crestwood and come through if they wanted to get to Tullamore. At the end of the day, we see a lot of, the priority for paths for the town is to connect people to the main destinations. Travel between, different random points in the town, like from one subdivision to another, there may not be a super efficient connection for that. But if you think of the way that we're thinking about the path system now, it's kind of a hub and a spoke type of situation. If you're trying to get from one end of a spoke to another, there may not be an easy way to do that. But if you're at any end of the spoke and you want to get to the center, we're trying to provide those connections very easily. So if you're trying to get to downtown, trying to get to Publix, trying to get to those types of places, that's what we can get the most bang for our buck on our path system.
Crestwood Road, I would imagine that there's gonna be a lot of land acquisition that's gonna be involved. Height Road.
Yeah, there might be some property acquisition that would be a part of that. Although there's some decent, there's some decent shoulder to play with on Crestwood.
I was gonna ask that the area that you're talking about, crossing the railroad track and going through before you cross over Senoia Road, does that belong to the train or the town or?
Here, so it's a little bit of a, so CSX owns they maintain the crossing. So
After you cross over, then that property, is it still?
yeah, basically this right-of-way width here would be CSX. Anything else would be the town. So we would be making that connection. And this.
Okay, so, and yeah, that's the area I was wondering about, where the trees are, that's got a lot of work to be done there.
Right, yes. Oh, this property here.
Yes.
Oh, okay, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know exactly who has, like, property. It's possible that's the town. It's not very clear, obviously, from the tax map.
It doesn't show anybody on the property tax map.
The tax
The
map.
plat, I believe, shows
It says here, if
something
you're,
we're gonna have to do some research on.
yeah, that would be something we'd have to get back to you on. It says Woodland Preserve LLC. I believe at one point in time, Maple Shade was under that title. So this could be just a vestige of the overall land that was part of Maple Shade subdivision or something like that. That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure who owns that. There would have to be some, if we're pulling a path in and around this direction, there would have to be some negotiation.
That's a dentist job, sounds to me like.
Love to take care of it.
When the time comes, right?
So that path has been highly desired. It's something that we think is worth pursuing if we.
Parts on Senoia Road, even that shorter section's just scary.
Right. We want to make sure that we're providing a safe, crossing for them. And we have miscellaneous improvements and connections. This is what we were talking about regarding some really short paths like the Laurelwood Road connector. I mean, that would be just a couple, not even a couple hundred feet to make that a safe connection for Laurelwood residents to get to our pre-existing path system. Castlewood Road, there are a lot of places where the path is right up against the street and there's no curb. It's kind of an unsafe, what we consider to be an unsafe condition given the speed of Castlewood Road. So getting some separation, some safety improvements, widening perhaps in some locations, and repaving in some locations as well. And then the same goes for Far Road. Far Road is really just a sidewalk. So taking a good look at Far Road and seeing how we can actually upgrade that to accommodate two-way golf cart traffic and bicyclist and pedestrian traffic is important.
This is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, correct?
I'm not sure.
Road?
I think
Far
Far Road's
Road.
30 or 35.
35, I believe.
So we can also look at that at Far as a candidate for Share the Road Street. So putting in some traffic calming measures, reducing. But it also has good suitability for a path, side path as well.
What about the sidewalks in downtown?
Yes, so that's kind of getting into the downtown improvements. Any path or sidewalk improvements that are gonna be in the town center district are gonna be separate from the classification of multi-use trails. Cause it's all part of and bundled into one thing.
One other thing, just to point out to council, that keep in mind that we don't have ownership of completely of Far Road. There are sections of Far Road that are the county's road. So anything that we do, like widening the path along the side of the road or traffic calming, those kind of things will involve their participation. Keep that in mind.
So now it's downtown. Very good transition, Ms. Howard, thank you. We've talked about a lot of different projects to help facilitate the LCI program and basically the comprehensive plan of just improving beautification, improving walkability, safety, things of that nature, parking. We're trying to promote downtown and support the businesses here and support local, small, business growth. And so a lot of these projects are meant to kind of help initiate that growth. So we especially see these downtown improvements as investments in the community that can really pay off with new business growth and property development and things like that. And this is also where we can stretch SPOS dollars regarding some matching grant funds as well, because downtown is eligible for TIP grants and different monies of that nature. So a lot of the SPOS dollars, if we're putting it towards those projects, can help us basically help stretch those dollars with extra grants.
Park a while ago had 5 acres. You can see better on here. Is that where it stretches along the railroad tracks?
Yeah, actually, so it's 5 acres on its own on the east side of the tracks. And then there's that other sliver of land, if that's what you're talking about, on the west side of the tracks. That's an acre on its own.
And I know that's the towns, but
Yeah, so just this parcel here is Fabian Brown. That's the 5 acre tract.
okay. All right, on that other, it looked like it went further down along the railroad tracks, just to.
To the south of what you've just showing right here, is that property still available? There was 25 acres in there at one time, wasn't there?
Yeah, it is. It's a 25 acre tract, still owned by the Handley family. It's as far as I know, it's available. It's something I've gotten a couple of inquiries about it.
You interested?
For quite a few years ago, when it was walked, it said it was wet.
Yeah, the back of this portion, you can kind of see where the trees change a little bit. So this portion back here is floodplain, but a good
flood?
portion of it is not in the floodplain.
Do the floodplain and wetlands and this.
Yeah. So the FEMA floodplain reaches into this area. But it's not a tremendous amount.
That other map, it did show housing.
Oh, on this? Yeah, this was just a super high level map from the LCI, just kind of showing potential opportunities in various parts of the town, and they did show the potential for some housing on that property.
Road going through there, I was thinking.
Oh, yes, yeah, what's in blue, kind of like highlighted in blue, those are new road, potential road connections, yes. So, we kind of visualize for citizens, some renderings for streetscaping and beautification, signage, so just what would wayfinding signage look like, and entryway, gateway signage to downtown. Basically streetscaping and sidewalk improvements, including some signage on light poles, on-street parking, how would that actually work and make it look, including, this is actually Commerce Drive, some renderings for overall increased kind of beautification and traffic calming so that it was a same thing here. We're just kind of showing what those cross sections would look like, how we would engineer them. And then we're talking about parking and utility improvements. So we have a rendering that'll be dropped in there. And we just kind of chose an image that showed a lot of overhead utility. And you kind of get used to it over time. You're not really thinking about it. But once you actually start paying attention to it, you're like, yeah, it'd be really nice if that was not hanging above your head. So, and it can go a long way in terms of preserving kind of the scenic nature of the town with them underground. The last two sections are sewer, stormwater, and then admin. So just talking about capacity increases and some expansion for economic development purposes, particularly along the corridor and in the town center district. So the town's goal is not to expand sewer into other parts of the town. The town is mostly estate residential, 1 acre lot minimum development pattern, so preserving that in most of the town, but trying to offset property tax increases with strategic economic development in the kind of core areas. Public safety and equipment, dump truck, bucket truck, utility truck, patrol cars, they're expensive. So, and they're needed. And so we've just kind of outlined some of those needs here. And that's the end of the whole book. So this is what, we do have some more tweaks to make to the renderings and probably some project narratives. But this is what we would present to the public in regards to what they would be voting on.
Is there anything in here other than railroad crossings? Is there anything that some external body could prohibit? Similar to DOT telling us in our last one that we could not build that entrance onto 74.
I would say the number one would probably be CSX. It is difficult to work with the railroad, and from a lot of different professionals, we've heard that CSX is probably the least easy to work with. So I would think that anything that we have proposed that involves CSX Railroad has a potential for that. Although, based on our research, we think that it's doable, the projects that we've proposed. Just compared with, what they've permitted in the past and what their standard requirements are. Any new at-grade crossings is just an automatic no from CSX. But any pre-existing at-grade crossings, improvements seem to be something that, as long as you follow their guidelines and you potentially wait a very long time, you will be. So we feel pretty confident in that. We've not gone heavy on CSX projects that involve the railroad, but we think that one with Dogwood Trail and with the roundabout at Senoia, we think that.
Somewhere in this 25-page packet.
Other than you right now, no. This will at the time that you approve this in its final form, it'll go out to the citizens. It'll be manual that's available for the citizens.
It'll be included with the counties and Peachtree City and everybody else.
That gonna be how we're gonna promote this, Sandy?
Well, that's part of it. The county has multiple employees, sorry. The county has multiple employees that are working on SPLOST, and they kind of spearhead the whole thing.
That's what council.
It didn't look right, I'm not sure.
Eric, to follow up, excuse me, Mayor, to follow up on your question, though, you know, Fayette County is another stumbling block if for some reason they decide they don't want to participate in these. But, you know, our relationship with Fayette County is very good and very strong, and they're very willing to do these kind of projects, and they're about these kind of transportation projects and keep serving the community. So we feel pretty strongly that they're going to support them.
Yeah, and if, like as a Far Road example, us improving the path along Far Road, like expanding it, the portion that's in the county is not a very long and wide portion. I feel confident that that's not a burdensome, like, request to partner with the county on. And it's already a pre-existing sidewalk, so if for whatever reason they weren't able to partner with us at that time, there would still be a pedestrian connection. It wouldn't be ideal, but it would still be present until such time that, you know, the county was.
We could leave it narrow and then put up a sign that says this portion belongs to the county.
That'll go over big. Scott, most of the county property is on the west side of Far Road. There's a few houses there, but on the right side, or if you're going down towards Dogwood Trail, so on your right side, which would be the west side, am I correct?
Okay.
Most of that, I believe, other than the overhead, the gas lines that run through there.
So this is the portion of Far Road. It's a roughly 2,000-foot segment. That is county.
There's some more at the intersection with Dogwood.
So does that,
Oh, there's,
Yes.
there's this.
You're,
Right, so where you see the county on one side and the town of Tyrone on the other, don't pay any attention to what color the road is. If the county's on one side and the town's on the other, the county has that jurisdiction. If the county's on, or if the town's on one side and another municipality's on the other, my understanding is that it still reverts back to the county because they're the authority, the higher authority. Is that correct?
That's one school of thought, yes.
Okay.
But it's a good school of thought. As far as the cost distribution, I'm looking at the leisure services and I'm trying to see, maybe I should go back up to the list. Well, it's not broken down. If you look at the pie chart type thing,
Okay.
leisure 2. Like I'm finding some contradictory information.
Is there a number that seemed off?
It seemed like in one place it says that for one category it's this much and one.
Oh, I think you might be right. So this one does say 2.5 million.
Yes, right.
I think it should be.
Then what does that end? Bless you.
bless you.
All right, and then
Yeah, so this, you're talking about this page here?
well, yeah, and then I was looking at where they had the where they actually talk about the pages following, pages 14 and 15, that kind of thing.
Leisure services would start on page 9.
All right, so downtown is 2.5. Is that what you have on the list? And I remember seeing something that said stormwater 2, and I thought, all right, so it says sewer and stormwater 3.5.
So we did combine, so in this budget detail here, we did separate them out into a few
Okay.
more categories. So stormwater and sewer combined would be 3.5.
That's what I
But
saw.
we did break it down just so people could see stormwater is actually more specifically 2 million, sewer.
Okay. Can we, can we put them together for the purposes of submission in order to give us more flexibility? Or do they have to be separated?
I don't believe they have to be separated. We can combine those. We can, you're talking about in this detail, combine these categories.
So if you needed more money for the stormwater as opposed to sewage or vice versa, you'd have
Right.
that ability.
Right.
That can be adjusted together.
Philip, the admin on that page also needs to be changed to the 492.5 or whatever that is.
We didn't take it out. We made it much more specific to the projected number that was anticipated. Let's see. I didn't think
I
so.
think it was Parks and Rec, wasn't it?
Yeah, Parks and Rec is supposed to be 2 million, not 2.5. Then, yes.
That's what I'm.
Yeah. I think we're gonna adjust some of it now. Yeah.
What the need is, the needs are.
Okay.
Philip, I think Parks and Rec was supposed to be 2.5. It doesn't add up if you take the 500,000 out.
So this was
One of the
492.
categories. But, let me ask this question, see if this helps. Let me know when you can listen to me. I'll let you focus on what you're doing. Parks and Rec, maybe we can change the name of that. Yeah, no, that's why I said, that's what I noticed, and it made me think of that.
Leisure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
services should be 2.5.
We can't put any more money in here. Good as it is broken down by.
This number has changed here.
All right, you ready for
Yes,
me?
sir.
Where you have leisure services, now you just changed it. But what about folding in all town assets? Such as the museum or the rec building or whatever, and improvements on those assets. How would you word that?
I mean, I guess you could potentially just call that town like services. Or you're talking about like the properties themselves, like the amenities themselves?
Such as if we needed like, we're supposed to vote tonight on something of $16,000 for the museum building. All right, what if we wanted to use SPOS funds for something similar to that in the future? Or what if we have something go wrong at the rec center and we want to use SPOS funds for that purpose? Can we not enter language in this cost estimate spreadsheet so that we have that option?
I assume you can. You'd want to be general enough in your to achieve that goal, but specific enough to let citizens know that it can't just be for anything.
True.
So we would want to make sure that we defined it. So I mean, categorically, we could title it something.
Then just add museum improvements, and you see, like, you have library dash rec exterior spaces improvements.
Sure.
And you take out exterior spaces and add museum, because then you're covering all three of those buildings.
We can, yeah, because the museum would be considered a leisure services kind of.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, would you like us to add
Category.
just a line that says facility maintenance?
Does maintenance scare you?
Maintenance does scare me, yeah.
Okay.
You need to probably build something or do something with the funds.
Right, right. That's why I haven't used the word maintenance as I've been speaking, because
So facility improvements, would that be a better word?
Improvements.
yeah,
You want your plan to have more dollars in it than you know you're gonna collect.
right.
So you can prioritize and do what needs to be done, have some flexibility, because if you collect more dollars and you don't have any more plans, any more projects out there, you can't do anything else.
Okay. We can also put, we can put other types of facility improvements in as well if there are more ideas for where you'd want to spend that money, for sure.
But that's what I was trying to say. If we just call it facility improvements, we can use it towards the specific facilities that we list in our booklet that are just pinpointing to an individual one, call it facilities maintenance or improvements, and then in the SPOS booklet, say this could go to projects for rec, whatever else, you know. Do you want to add to that? Firehouse, library.
Okay, well, library and rec are on there and museums on there, and I think that covers.
That's true. Yeah, Veterans Park is not necessarily on there. We can put, instead of specifying the parks, we can just put, we can have Shamrock Park be its own dedicated thing as the flagship park. We could combine other parks category, and that would cover any parks that are potentially not listed. And we could list in the description portion, the narrative portion, improvements to any and all of the town parks. Shamrock can just have its own dedicated kind of, because it does have a little bit more detail.
Now, if you, I'm not proposing this, I'm just using this as an example. If you end up saying, well, we're not going to, in 6 years from now, you say, well, we don't need to make any improvements to Red Wine Park, because we did that with the old splost. Is it okay if it existed on this line item, but then you didn't do those improvements?
Yes.
Thank you. So yes, Veterans Park needs to go in there.
We also, if this helps with Veterans Park, given Veterans Park's strategic location in downtown, a lot of our improvements regarding parking, streetscaping would probably be applied to Veterans Park as well. So it kind of falls into both a streetscaping kind of category and a parks or leisure services category.
Are there any of these categories that give you any heartburn thinking you don't have enough in that category? Or you don't have enough in that category?
It is difficult to know for certain the exact costs of a lot of things, just for multiple reasons. Just costs change wildly, especially lately. Costs have been really shifting wildly. You know, we feel confident that, you know, we can spend that amount of money in each category. Over collect, or if we under collect, you know, we do want to, you know, we feel confident in these numbers in that regard. Over collect, there can always be more that's spent on a lot of these facilities. If we under collect, these are all projects that the town has listed as goals in our capital improvement plan. So if they need to be put on any future SPLOST, if we under collect and don't get to some of them, feel confident that these would be projects that would want to be pursued regardless of it coming from SPLOST, general fund, grants, you know. I don't know if that answers the question. If you believe there are some of those types of projects that you don't feel like fall into that category, we certainly want to try.
The only one that concerns me is that stormwater improvements can just take up a chunk of money in, you know, one project, and we only have 2 million in there. That's the only one that struck me in the face.
And Dennis, you can correct me if we're able to complete the stormwater projects with less money, that money that's collected over that amount, we can put to other project categories.
Yes.
I have
As
to,
long as you have things on a list, you're covered. It's trying to add to the list after the fact that's problematic.
I have to assume, like the mayor is saying, with infrastructure improvements, you know, or, you know, stormwater, you've already got specific plans that you're thinking of already that need to be, you know, to be taken care of. I mean, there's always going to be that chance that something's going to happen in the meantime, and you need a little bit more on that, but.
You're asking me directly?
Yeah, I
okay, I'm
am.
sorry.
But I would
No,
figure maybe you might be able to
Diaz
handle
and
it,
me
answer
and
that.
short-
I know.
Okay,
We're
I'm sorry.
both too short for this
Yes,
podium.
we have you know, we'll go down our list of pipes and culverts that are, you know, worse condition and work down that list to improve those. And as we go to places where we're going to pave roads and things like that, if there's pipes in that are bad, maybe they're not at the high part of the list, but we're getting ready to pave that road. Of course, we're going to replace those at that time, so that we're not paving the road, digging it back up and redoing it again.
So on all of these that you have listed here, I have to, again, I'm imagining that you've got a priority list. I see you've tiered, you know, the importance that you want on all of these? Is that what that 1 and 2?
Yeah, so we actually wanted to, that's actually one of the topics we wanted to discuss with you. We can represent these projects by tier, or we can, as I kind of put on the screen here, we've actually represented it without tier. So the tiered is not necessarily indicative of priority. It's kind of a combination of timing and and a little bit of priority in there as well. So what we're talking about, if we were mentioning a tier 1 project, a tier 1 project's one that we would really want to get started on right away. But a tier 1 project may be a long-term project that could take an extraordinarily long amount of time. So if we start on a tier 1 project, we may actually finish a tier 2 project before finishing a tier 1 project, just simply because of timing. So we've included tier in there. It's mostly what we believe is most beneficial for internal working between council and staff, because we know, citizens, if we're looking at tier, it can be easy to distinguish that as simply priority.
I think you're
we had
opening
some-
yourself up to
We had a
getting
lot of
criticism.
discussion in the SPLOST advisory group about that as well, and so we wanted to present that to you in both kind of formats. We can tier them and show that to the public as priority, or we can just put them in there without that tier and use the tiering system internally for when we're trying to time budget projects and different things like that.
For me, I think to leave the tier out and just leave it as you've got on the sheet here, because I think, and then use it internally for whatever your purposes are going to be. That would be my opinion.
We went in there yesterday or the day before and tried to come up with different words that would get us where we wanted to be without causing problems, and we kept coming back to just take it out.
Because a lot of it has to do with how we internally work on projects. It's a combination of engineering judgment, like we're trying to prioritize the timing. We've now got like more detailed information on a project, so it's a lot of how we internally work on projects. We're coming together on a lot of variables, and it's difficult to explain to citizens as we're.
And also, you want to keep in mind, once again, that Dennis mentioned that we have to have projects out there in case we get more money in than what they're estimating that we're going to collect. And so we have a list that, in all honesty, we're probably not going to get to all of these. There's just not going to be enough money to do it. But we have extra projects just in case we get extra money and costs go down, or, whatever happens. But
If this passes, it begins to collect in July of '23.
yes, sir. And the 2017 SPLOST ends in June of '23. We'll get the last bit of money 2 months later, and then usually the little bit trickles in, but 23.
22's passed.
That's right.
Okay, does anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
You guys did a great job, and a lot of work went into it, and we appreciate all of that. Thank you.
We appreciate especially the SPLOST advisory group for helping us.
They did a great
kind of-
job.
Kind of having the ideas bounce off of and things like that.
And tell me again the timeline going forward.
So the timeline from this point, I believe that we will probably present to council to adopt a final version of this SPLOST manual some point in, I think now we would adopt in November. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm thinking that we're further into October than we are.
I think it's supposed to be next meeting, and then, I can't remember if it's the beginning or the end of November is when the mayors meet.
Right.
from all of the county.
That's when it'll get also sent to the county for them to include in any information that they
Right? And when will this go on the website?
after you approve it.
After we approve it, or after the county does what they're supposed to do?
After you approve it, we will publish it on our website as the town's approved SPOS manual. And then if there are any adjustments that we believe need to be made prior to the Board of Commissioners having the actual hearing, we'll publish it after you approve the final version. Technically, it's on the website now in your packets, the public packets, but it's clearly marked as draft.
Counselor, can you give us what we can and what we cannot say when discussing SPLOST, since it technically is a campaign? What do we need to be careful about saying?
Do not say anything that will influence the vote in one direction or the other, but to provide information to the public at large that we have an upcoming SPLOST election. Please exercise your right to vote. Please educate yourself on all the issues so you can have an informed vote. So talk education, talk voting, but don't talk voting on which side of the equation.
Okay. Especially on social media.
Correct.
This SPLOST manual is not intended to pass a vote. It's intended to be a reflection of what we've heard from the community as desired projects. And so if we were to receive this money, this is how we believe it would be commentary over the years.
Okay, that's important also, is this whole manual comes from the community, input from the community.
I mean, we're probably all inputted out over the past couple of years because we've had the LCI and the comp plan. So we've had a lot of community input on what people want to see, both townwide and downtown. And so this is reflective of that. We've had the SPLOST Advisory Committee kind of make sure we stay on track with that in formulating these projects. So it's not intended to be a promotion of it. It's simply meant to be an educational tool and a reflection of what, if it were passed, what the town would spend.
Is it okay to say that these dollars would be in lieu of other tax dollars collected?
I don't think you want to say that. I think you just want to educate people on the actual projects themselves and to get out there and vote. Once you start making statements of that nature, it's a veiled attempt at saying we want you to vote for this or else you might get your taxes increased.
That's not the intention. I mean, what the SPLOST does is it accelerates the ability to complete capital projects that we really, as a town, have already kind of planned. It's just a matter of when we would be able to complete those under general fund, allowances. And so the SPLOST does allow for an acceleration of that, but, it's just a factor of it. We wouldn't otherwise necessarily be.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? All right. Good with that?
Sure, as long, if this is the type of presentation, that's not a problem whatsoever. Sometimes communities have organizations that start up nonprofits just for the purpose of trying to get the word out in support of a particular side of the issue. But again, that's something that's independent from you, that you're not involved in, that the nonprofit can do that you could not.
Okay, so staff does their periodic meetings, invite HOA presidents in. Can staff present this as a topic for their meeting?
That's quite all right to do that in the same fashion as is presented this evening. You're
Would just
basically
be-
informing the public what the projects are, what the costs are, et cetera. And then it's gonna be at the March referendum. You know, timing is everything. Tell them the projects, tell them what it's gonna be, and it's up to them. They can vote yes or no.
The homeowners associations, as we've done before on other things regarding the comp plan and downtown in the master plan, if they want to invite us to present this manual at a HOA meeting, we are always available for that. Definitely do. I know there, a lot of the members of our SPLOST advisory committee are on HOA. Sure to reach out to them to let them know that we as staff are available to simply present the information as we've done here with,
Okay, thank you.
and Scott did give me the exact timeline, and I can give that to you now. So the week of September 19th, so this has already passed, we would have a meeting with the advisory committee. So the week of October 6th, this meeting is the workshop. October 20th, we would ask you to adopt the final manual, so that is the next meeting. October 24th, the mayors will meet to discuss the SPLOST and proposed distribution. And then by December 8th, the County Board of Commissioners would adopt the resolution. December 8th and March 20th, there would be continued education on the SPLOST. We would have the manual available for consumption. And then by March 21st, we would vote.
All right. Any public comments? Hearing none. Any staff comments? Are there any council comments? There's no need for executive session on this, or
I will defer to you. You can do your executive session now, or you can wait till after, at the end of your other meeting. But I do have an item of threatened litigation, real estate acquisition, and executive session minutes from from September the 15th, 2022.
Thank you. Can we complete what we can complete now? Can we, can we meet now, and if we don't finish, we'll finish it after?
I feel pretty confident we'll finish in less than 15 minutes.
All right, is there a motion to move to executive session?